one's right here. That one's right there. He wants to say hi.
Oh my gosh. Are we on?
Yeah, we are.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Sorry?
Yeah, we're on.
Go ahead. You want to do the intro?
No, I said we're on. You asked me if we're on, and I said yes, we're on.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast that is called Come Follow With Us. I almost said From Vision to Success. So if you watch our other podcasts, sometimes I get confused between the two names. We are so excited to have you here. We're so excited to share and learn and tell you really our takeaways. Miguel and I were talking a little bit, and we decided to change a little bit of the format of the podcast. Would you like to share with the people?
I would love to share with our thousands
viewers.
And millions of viewers and stuff like that.
Millions.
Yeah. We should call it Vision to Success CFU version or CFU. CFU.
I am a little hesitant about calling it that, but let's let it marinate.
Come follow.
Another.
CFM. Sorry, CFM. Come follow me. So Vision to Success, CFM styles. Anyways, no.
Let's just. Okay, go ahead. Do your thing.
No. So yeah, Maria and I were talking about it, and so we last week I think we had a phenomenal podcast. I think it was a great live jam session. And then I always watch our podcast when I'm on the road, just to the do's and the don'ts, and reiterate that like my insecurities are true, because I normally don't feel good when Maria's talking to me. And so I go through the podcast just to make sure that it's not in my head. So I'm now watching the interaction between two people, and I'm like, yeah, what I was feeling was legit.
You're you're like at 10:17 a.m. you said this.
Yeah. But we had a phenomenal live jam session last week, and it was because we were being our authentic selves. Right. And I think it comes through. So one of the things that I never want to come across is be like this scholar, this person that knows so much, and I do know much, not because I'm like this smart guy, it's because I do my research, and Maria's of the same caliber. She knows a lot because she reads a lot of books, she watches a lot of videos, she does a lot of studies of personal development. And that's truly who we are as individuals. And so one thing that I did not want to come across is that we are come follow me scholars, right? So for those who don't know, come follow.
We are not people.
Yeah, like I mean, we're knowledgeable, but we're not. We don't know, like, anyways, we're not. And so and we haven't been called to be teachers in the Come Follow Me program, right? These are just two individuals that are studying it out, right? Like we haven't been set apart. We don't have that mantle. And anyways, but I mean, we do have our callings and responsibilities. But one thing who we are authentic is being able to take any lived experience and make it applicable, right, to today's days, right? That's where Maria shines. That's where I shine. This is what we do for a living. And so I was talking to Maria, and this is what we did last week. So I was talking to Maria, and I'm like, why not change the format a little bit about the Come Follow Me? Let's still teach out of the manual, but let's really focus on the human development portion of it. What are the principles in the Come Follow Me that can be applicable to our lives while still preaching and teaching and professing our Christianity, right? And so that's what we decided, and she felt good about it. I felt really good about it. And so this is what we're doing now.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
I am.
Like as you were talking about it, I was like, it's kind of that principle of being like, okay, yeah, cool, that happened, but why does it matter to me?
Yeah.
And we want to show you how it can be applicable to you in your life, whether you're parenting, whether you're talking to friends, family, whether you're dealing with other human behavior both out church and outside of church. So they're really exciting.
Absolutely. Jimmy Blenhart just sent a message saying we join you anyway. So thank you, Jimmy. He's a longtime supporter. We love you too, and we appreciate you.
Yes, thank you for watching always.
Now, Jimmy, I know that you're online now. Last week we had a little bit of problems with echo. Can you let us know if there's an echo here or not? And then we'll go from there.
We think we fixed it, but
we think we fixed it. Yeah, so just let us know if there's an echo or not. Anywho, so let's get us started to today's lesson and today's program here. Now, do you want to give a little history of what's going on? Yeah, Jimmy says there's no echo. So, do you want to give
oh, yay, we fixed it. Yes.
I know.
Thank you
I
so much.
fixed it.
Okay.
Your technology skills are like.
I am gifted in the talking, not so gifted in trying to figure out these like gadgets.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
always like, Miguel, Mike, anybody,
If
anybody,
if
Macau.
if you ever start a business with a partner, make sure that the partner knows tech, and so because if not, you're gonna fail.
Shush, I know my tag. It's
Yeah,
just easier when you, Mike, or Raquel are around.
sure, sure.
Anyway, so just to give you like a little synopsis or a little shoot summary of what happened this week. We are focusing in Doctrine and Covenants 2, and we're also going into Joseph Smith history, sort of the background of how this vision came to be and where he was in history, right?
Yeah.
So the Doctrine and Covenants focuses a lot in one of the prophecies actually one of the prophecies that it's in the Bible, and it's about turning the hearts of the fathers to the children and turning the children's hearts to the fathers. And it all has to do with family history. It all has to do with linking ourselves with our loved ones, not that are just here, but the ones that are coming, that came here from behind us, but also the ones that are coming in the future.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's about eternal families. It's about sealing and the sealing power and being able to be together forever, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one portion of it.
We were talking
Go
the
ahead.
pre-show. No, we were talking the pre-show, and you made an interesting point that it blew me away.
I would like to say you're welcome.
No, hang on one second. Before you
point.
take any credit to anything, you stop it right now. So before you take any credit or whatever the case is, what I want you to tell everybody what's going on before you do. So Joseph Smith, for those who don't know, he is the first prophet of the modern days in our faith. And then anyways, he goes, and we've talked about this in a previous podcast. And if you want to go back and take a look at that, he had a question, and then he had a visitation from the Father and the Son. So he sees a vision, and he tells him like of his purpose in life, right? Then from that point on, it's just a slew of revelations and a slew of events, and just all of these questions that were answered, which were compiled into Doctrine and Covenants. Maria made a really good point. So one of the things that we believe in is that Joseph Smith received a visit from an angel named Moroni. And you said how many times did he visit him?
4 times.
4 times, right?
So let's give a little history.
Yeah.
Before we get to that point, let's give a little history.
Yeah,
so
go
like
for it.
Miguel said, Joseph Smith, he had a visitation from the Father and the Son, and they told him not to join any churches because that was his question. He wanted to go to church. He was like, please let me know which one I need to go to. The Father and the Son came, and they said, my gospel is not here yet. Don't go to anything. So, okay, he's 14 years old. Fast forward, he's 17, hasn't heard anything. And then he starts to get worried about his standing before the Lord.
Yeah.
Because he's a 17-year-old, right? So he's doing 17-year-old things. Although he doesn't have huge sins, he also doesn't feel good about the things that he's done. So one day he decides, you know what? I want to know my standing with the Lord. I want to pray, and I fully believe that he's going to let me know.
So
wait. Remember, he prayed before.
Before you mention that, hang on one second. I know where you're going with this. 3 years of no visitation. Like, so in last year's
Imagine having like the most powerful like spiritual
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
and then nothing for 3 years.
Yeah. And
That's crazy, right?
Remember we talked about the travel with the Jaredites, and they were in the boat for 366 days, where it's like that was a year.
Yeah.
This is
Yep.
3 years of zero communication. So he has this magnificent experience with the Father and the Son, and then just 0 dark hours, nothing from the heavens. You start to question yourself, right? Did I really have this experience? Like, what happened? And you start to question, like, if you've done something wrong, like, I'm like, oh man, like, have I offended them?
The incredible thing is that he never questioned whether he had the visitation or not, but what he did question was his worthiness.
His worthiness, yeah.
Right? Exactly. Where he was like, I don't know, like, I haven't really had. And keep in mind, too, that during these 3 years, he's being persecuted. People are making fun of him. They're doing things. They're not treating him well. So you have the people are not treating you well. You don't feel close to the Lord. And you also feel like maybe you're not living the best way that you could. So this is how he goes and offers his prayer, right?
Yeah.
So here we are. He offers his prayer. And as he's praying, he sees light coming from the ceiling. And there's a visitation from Angel Moroni. So if we go back to the Book of Mormon, Angel Moroni was one of the last prophets. He's the one that deposited these golden plates into a hill for safety, and it's for us to be able to know of these plate or of this book in our times now, right? Yeah.
Mm.
So he goes and he has this beautiful visitation where Joseph tells him, oh, not Joseph, Moroni tells him, what does he tell him? He tells him about the Book of Mormon, about the golden plate in the first vision or in the first manifestation, right? So then he goes away. Then he comes down again and he tells him a second thing. And he's like, hey, you're going to be responsible of getting these plates, but be careful because these plates are highly valuable and you are going to be tempted to do something you shouldn't be doing with them, like selling them. How, because his family was they were poor, they were in poverty. So he was going to be, the angel told him, like, be careful about that, right? And then the third time that he came and spoke to him, he told him, hey, make sure you tell your dad about this, right? And then the visitation stopped, the sunrise came, and then he had to go to work. So he goes to work, and what do you think? Does he tell his dad?
I wouldn't.
He doesn't, right?
Yeah.
I know. He's like, wait, I know. Can you imagine? I'm like, would people believe me?
Yeah.
And
Dad,
so
last night a man came into my room. It's like from 4 times, right? It's like.
I know, seriously, right? So he goes, but he's exhausted. So his dad sees him and sends him home. And then as he's going home, he collapses. And when he collapses, he opens his eyes and he sees Moroni again. And Moroni's like, why didn't you tell your dad? And then he says, you know what? I was scared that he wouldn't believe me. And this is the principle that we were talking beforehand, right, with Miguel and I, is that I was telling my kids the story. And I was telling them the part that Moroni said that you need to tell your dad because life is going to be difficult and you need someone to support you during this difficult time, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be there for you and he's going to believe you. And so then as I was chatting with my kids, I told them this past week before they were going to bed, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you're going to be called on doing things that are hard, or sometimes even living the gospel are hard, but you're not meant to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You are meant to do it with a team, with a community, with your family, with the community around you, the community of Christ, with other church members that know what you're going through or potentially should know what you're going through. You don't have to do it alone. So anyway, that was my biggest takeaway this week.
Well, and so we had this conversation last week that a couple of weeks ago something happened, right? and not to keep bringing this up because I really wanted to be part of yesterday's news, and I don't want to keep bringing it up, but I did not realize how much I needed people around me to help me, and me trying to power through and white knuckle it until I felt better. Yeah. wasn't doing anything for my mental health, and I'm pretty positive, upbeat guy, right? And so yesterday we were at the youth activities, and there was two people that saw what happened. You're good?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm good. Go ahead.
Like, so technology and now just objects are not your friend? Like, what is happening?
Things are flying. Sorry.
Things are flying?
Okay, sorry about that.
Things are not flying. Let me just tell you that right. Things don't move by themselves. This is not Toy Story.
Things are collapsing. Sorry, guys. Okay, go ahead.
So yesterday I was at a youth activity, and then someone comes up to me and she goes, "Hey, I just want to tell you, I really appreciated the words that, the Sunday's talk." And I go, "Oh, it was my pleasure." I'm like, she goes, "Yeah, like."
What did you talk about in your talk?
Oh, dude, we didn't go into it.
No. Okay, finish the story and then we'll
Yeah. I put myself out there, man. It was, Tegan said, now again, this is not me boasting, right? So Tegan said that she's heard pretty much 99.99% of all my talks. And she said that the one that I gave on Sunday, according to her, was the most powerful one that I've ever given.
I can't wait to hear about it. Okay, so tell me about
And so, anyways.
Tell me about Thursday.
And one of the reasons is because I put myself out there. I told him, hey, I was in the position of, like, dark. I was just, like, self-worth. I did not know my value and all these different things. And these are the events that took place from within the 7-day span. And then I started listing all the things that happened to me that was, like, Doctrine and Covenant. And there's a promise in Doctrine and Covenant of angels round about you, right? And so then the line that I put there is like, when you're in trouble, God will send angels. We call them humans, family, and friends. And I call them members of the Heart Lake Ward, right? And so I just
I don't go to Heart Lake. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know exactly what I'm talking about. And if people don't know, just watch her Monday podcast. You will know why she's not included in this. Actually, you were. I did talk about you in the Talk and Go, and then I had a podcast partner that came up to me, and even though she was going through problems, she made me feel like number one. Anyway, so I have it written down, right? Long story short, she comes up to me yesterday and she says, "So I noticed." She goes, "I've known you for a very long time." She goes, "You've been in this world for a very long time. I've always known you to be this upbeat, moving around like life is big, whatever." She goes, "I have never seen you so low, so defeated, so like just given up that I saw you a couple of weeks ago." And I'm like, "You saw that?" She goes, "Everybody saw that." And I'm like, and so she comes up to me, she goes, "You're doing an awesome job." That's all she said. And she talked to her husband, and the husband's like, "Yeah, like something happened." Her husband talked to my father-in-law, and then just like, again, me not saying anything to anybody and who it was and what happened and nothing like that. All she was, and that simple gesture, like, I saw you and I hear you and you're not alone. Like, holy, like I came home feeling really, really good. So the importance of just letting people in your life, I cannot even begin to tell you how important that is, right? And I think Moroni knew that. Moroni knew that these were going to be some of the most difficult times Joseph was going to have. And he just said, just whatever you do, just make sure that you bring your family along with you. Right?
Let me quote Oprah for 1 second.
Oh my gosh. We're quoting Oprah. You get a car and you get a car.
No, but it's something that I read in a book recently, and they were quoting Oprah, and Oprah said that the biggest thing with regards to people and one of our most basic human desire is to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood.
Yeah.
Right?
Huge.
And so I'm like, exactly. So if you think about it, I'm like, Moroni knew what Joseph Smith needed. He needed to be seen, he needed to be heard, he needed to be understood.
Yeah.
Especially in the midst of all the chaos, persecution, hardship. I mean, they were going to go through the loss of his sibling, right? Like Alvin died.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were going to go through the fact that he wanted to get married to Emma, but her parents hated him and didn't want that union to happen. And then, so you need people in your corner. And just like you said, like the fact that on Thursday you were seen, you were heard, and you were understood.
Yeah.
It made a difference
Huge.
in how you felt and how you perceived the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you are letting, and here's just I don't want to say a warning, right? But just something to keep in mind, right? Is if you are going to be in the position of letting people in, you have to be careful and mindful in who those people are, right? Take a look at their track history. Because if there's a history there of people putting you down, and I'm talking about joking around. Like I put down Maria all the time, right? Like she's like, and she puts me like, again, just watch her.
Lucky that I'm still here.
Honestly, just watch our Monday podcast. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So there's a history Maria putting me down, but it's all in good fun. It's all in good jokes. And when push comes to shove behind the scenes, I know she has my back. So anybody that you decide to start letting in, just make it methodical. Right? And make it like study it out, pray it out, and just figure out who those people are and then go to them. Mm-hmm. And the history here is this, right?
Ooh, I love that.
What?
I love the fact that you say pray about it. I'm like, because technically the first person that needs to be in your inner circle, Miguel and I have had conversations about like really thinking about who is in your inner circle, right? But the first person that needs to be in there is Jesus. Because if anyone knows, sees you, understands you, and hears you, it is him.
Yeah.
And he's going to want to help. And if you ask him, like, please help me to know who I can open up myself to, that I can receive that support, I 100% believe that he will guide you to that right person. Yeah. And that right person will also be prompted to talk to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, oh, shoot. No.
Seriously.
I'm using Tegan's computer and it's linked up to her phone. So you relax, right? So I'm getting all her text messages and all of her calls right now. So I'm trying to like filter things out. But yeah, it's, and one way that I always take a look at it is, how do I feel when I'm around this person? It's a hard question to ask because sometimes we have these people that have been with us, like, ride or die, long history and whatever. but you kind of don't like how they make you feel. They make fun of you. They make you feel bad. They're always pointing out all your negatives. They're very slow to lifting you pushing you up, kind of thing. And so I know that you may have history with them, but just, maybe you can have history with them having fun and a party. But when it comes to like personal stuff, when you know that you're going to need support, again, make sure that you are just truly methodical and you take a look at their track record. And for me, and again, I have 3 people that are part of my inner circle, right? And so then I have people that are part of my circle. And so these are inner circle and circle are the people that I would go to in a heartbeat, right? And it's small,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not big, but it's there, and I know that they're my ride or die partners.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, right? So a couple of things here, and I have this thing written down here. When you're doing good work, in this case, Joseph was doing God's work, right? But when you're doing good work, I need people to understand that you are going to get pushback. There needs to be opposition in everything. One question that I have here is why? So if you're doing something good, if you're doing something for God, if you're doing something for life, if you're doing something for the betterment of humankind, right? And whatever the case is, like I watch all these cat videos and these feel good videos of kids coming, dads coming home from the war and surprising their kids from whatever. And there's like 1 million likes, but then there's like 100,000 dislikes. And it's just like, what, or it's all like these different things. We're like, why is there a need for opposition when you're trying to do good? Why can't we just get everybody's buy-in? So that was the one question that I came across, and I was like, I really wanted to connect with you on that.
I think it's because of agency, right? There needs to be opposition in all things. So how could you use your agency? How could you build your faith? How could you build your resiliency? How could you build your knowledge and your hope if there wasn't an opposition to it? I mean, that's why there was a war in heaven, right? There was a war in heaven for us to have the ability to choose good from evil and for us to be able to be empowered and make our own choices. If we didn't have the opposition, then it would be so boring. Can you imagine? Like everybody's just going through the motions. There's nothing. There's no choice. There's really anything. So it wouldn't be fulfilling. But there's something fulfilling about knowing that, okay, there's a sacrifice. There's something that perhaps I had to give up. There's some type of discomfort I needed to go through. There's some type of pain I needed to go through in order to be where I am today. And for me, my biggest experience, and I often have talked about it, both in this podcast and in our other podcasts, is the loss of my dad. There's so many things that there's so many blessings that I prayed for. And I was like, you know what, Heavenly Father, please help me with getting X, Y, C. Like, I want to do this, that, and the other. But had I known that those blessings required me to go through the loss of my dad in the way that it happened, I think I would have shrunk back. But because I didn't shrink back when I was in the moment, as painful as it was, I don't want to say horrible, because there was beauty in it as well. And I learned so much about myself, and I learned so much about the people around me, and resiliency and faith and God, and just the relationship that me and Heavenly Father have. I just feel like it was forged in that pain that I would not have been able to have had I not had that opposition come into my life.
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
I think it's necessary for growth.
So you just triggered a thought here. Have you ever seen a movie, and I hate promoting movies because I don't remember if there was any bad scenes or in it or stuff like that. But I'm always so scared, right? Because I don't know who's watching.
Watch with your
Well, do you remember?
your own discretion.
Do you remember when I was in the youth program and I told the soccer
Was it
movie?
the Ted Lasso?
Yeah, Ted Lasso. During a youth thing, and then everyone, did he just quote Ted Lasso? It's not it's a feel good program, but there's a lot of bad things in it. Anyways, we didn't know until we started watching it. But yeah, so I'm always so hesitant. There is a quote by Charles Baudelaire, and he says this, and it's from a movie. I'm not going to quote the movie. If anybody out there knows the movie, don't quote the movie. But anyways, and so there's 2 parts to this. Number one, the greatest trick the devil has ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard that quote. I just didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, it's from a movie, but the Charles Baudelaire is it's a philosopher or a writer, and he was quoted in the movie. And then the part two to this is by a guy named Ken Ami, and he goes, the second greatest trick the devil has ever pulled was convincing the world that he's a good guy.
Yeah.
And so, to what you were saying, is that we need opposition for progression. I remember in high school we talked about friction, and we need friction for our feet to move forward. So the friction is just like every time you when you go like this, you're creating friction. So it's two items or two things, and then they're rubbing against each other. And what ends up happening is that when you're walking and you're putting down your foot and you're pushing forward, the ground is actually pulling the opposite way. And it's the tiniest thing, but even though your feet is going down and it's just pushing forward, the ground is actually pulling the opposite way. If it would not so, we would just fly off, right? And so we need friction for our feet or for our bodies to move forward. And I think you're absolutely right when it comes to this. We need opposition. If not, then we can't progress. And the devil does exist. Like, he is real. And if we believe in God, we have to believe in him. We don't have to believe in him, but we have to believe that he does exist. And he is constantly fighting against goodness in the world. So whether or not you're doing something faith-based, whether or not you're doing something good for human behavior, progression, just to know that he's around and he's trying to destroy all that is good, right? And when you fight his battles, right, there's that thought of like, well, I'm doing a good thing. The second trick has been pulling is that he does exist, but that he's a good guy. And so just be mindful of that, right? If you're in the program, or if you're in the business of human behavior and personal progress, you're going to get pushed back tenfold.
Yeah. As you were talking, it just triggered a thought. It's just the thought of being like, don't be surprised when things are hard. Don't be surprised when challenges happen, especially when you're doing good.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, why would things get hard if you're not doing anything?
Yeah.
They wouldn't, because you're not doing anything, right? But as soon as you start making commitments or trying to improve, that's when things are going to be hard. I'm working with one of my young women right now, and she's about to graduate the program. So she's turning 18 in August. And I had an awesome conversation with her. We did a one-on-one interview, and we just identified some areas that she wanted to progress and to work on. And one of the areas that she's working on, she's working towards getting her patriarchal blessing. Wow. And I kid you not, I feel like the resistance, the hardship, the things that started happening in this last couple of weeks for her have been next level. Like I talked to her briefly yesterday, and she sounded so discouraged, and I was like, one of the messages that I told her, I was like, listen, I'm like, when we think about all the things that we have to do, like just from here till, because she's becoming an adult, there's a lot of scariness to becoming an adult, because you're finishing one stage of your life, you're finishing high school, and now you're going into the world from what it seems. And now there's like missions, there is school, there is like finding a partner, there's all these things that end up coming up, and the pressure of like finances and picking a profession that's going to give you the ability to have all these things, right? So as I was chatting with her, I was like, listen, I was like, when you focus on everything that's like that you think has to happen, you're going to feel overwhelmed. And I'm like, I feel overwhelmed when I think about that. The best way is to break it down, think about one task at a time, one exam at a time, one moment at a time. And then I said to her, I was like, it makes sense that you're having a hard time right now. I'm like, one, you're amazing. Second, you're leveling up. So it only makes sense that there's resistance to you leveling up.
I told you about that kid that would go to ride his bike to his mom so he can come to church.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, why do you do that? Like it's cold. Why do you, whatever? And he goes, because he's like, when I feel that I shouldn't do something that is church related, he goes, he knows it's not God. He knows it's the devil. And he goes, so he has a choice to make now. Either the devil wins by not doing it, or he can do the opposite of what he's feeling, and just do it, and knowing that God wins and he'll have God on his side, right? The similar,
Yeah.
I had the same thought on right before my mission. So I submitted my call. I got my mission papers back, and, going to Puerto Rico and all this stuff. And during those 2 months of me taking off, the amount of things that were opportunities that were popping.
Yeah.
I had
It's like bam, bam,
oh,
bam.
you have no idea. Like, I was getting things like scripts to movies, and that looking back, I was like, holy crap! Like, I could have been part of that movie, right, or that music video, or where would I have been right now? One of my best friends. So his name's George. He's in movies right now, and like he made it. Like, he's in Hollywood, right? And him and we grew up together, and that was our dream. It was to go to Hollywood, and do all these movies and all these different things. But he made it because he didn't stop. I stopped for 2 years, but he advanced so much more. But again, it was I was getting all these scripts and all these invitations to go to do all these different things and whatever. And so now I can stay behind. My mom's promising me a car and a new computer and $3,000, or I can go on my mission and leave all of that behind. And it was,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and there was this one girl. Dude, I was working on her for like years. I liked her. I thought she was beautiful and all these different things. And right before my mission, she comes up and she goes, "I want to date you." I'm like, oh my gosh.
And you're like, what?
So I got a car, I got money, I got a computer, I got a girl, and all these movies. I was like, it was tough. It was tough, right?
It's like instant gratification versus like long-term fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
Because there is so many skills that you learn in a mission. Not only this, I think the spiritual side is huge, but if we take the spiritual side out of it, learning resiliency,
Yeah.
learning how to get along with others, learning what you want in a partner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that come home from their missions and become entrepreneurs because they learn to be okay with the word no and hardship and all that stuff, right?
That's exactly
Like
what I told.
literally, right?
Yeah, that's what I told.
Sorry?
That's exactly so we had a missionary conference yesterday, and that's exactly what I told the mission. I was like, listen, some of you are going to go. So there were 8 breakout sessions or 8 breakout
Yeah.
rooms. And so I was in a breakout room, and I told them, I'm like, listen, some of you are going to go back home and you're going to be sales reps, and you might be saying no. And I'm like, you might be saying no, but I go, the skills that you've learned on your mission can be applied and you will be very profitable, right? Just learning how to talk to
Absolutely.
people, right? So yeah, like
It's
all
the
those skill
same.
sets.
Like if you think about it, I'm like, it's an insane amount of human development in two
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
that it's gonna help you. Now I think by all means, like the spiritual aspect of it is wonderful and beautiful, and that's what I would want more of my kids to focus on. But you can't ignore the soft skills that you get with it
Yeah.
as well, right? And
Skill,
that's amazing what the Lord gives you.
soft and hard skills. Because
Yeah.
one thing that Seth was talking about, that he's learned how to focus and study better. So
Yeah.
he was horrible. That was a hard skill that he was just kind of like whatever. But now, because you study the gospel for 2 hours in the morning, every single day
Yeah.
for 2 years, like there's no time off. Even on your P day, you wake up and you study your scriptures, right? You study the books.
Yeah.
So the way that he's learning gospel, the way that he's learning the references and all these different things, and like it's the thing is, right. And the neat thing is, I'm starting, before I didn't agree with his whole calling once a week, because on my mission, again, you call twice a week, twice a month, twice a year, and now as
Yeah.
missionaries you call every week. But seeing what Seth is going through, I'm like, he needs the support system from home. He needs the life lessons that those past lived experiences from mom and dad, to be able to help him out and all these different things, right? And so same thing happened to Joseph, right? It's
Yeah.
he needed the support from his family. He needed the support from his dad, right?
Yeah. Another thing that I love from that particular experience, because then the rest of the Joseph Smith history goes into him getting the plates and having to go 4 times for the plates, right?
Yeah.
So here we have, oh, interesting, eh? He had 4 visitations from Moroni, and then he had to go 4 times. I just realized that he had to go 4 times to get the plates. So the first time, remember that advice that Moroni was like, be careful, you're going to be tempted to like do all these profitable things with the plates, but those are not the reason why the plates are there.
Yeah.
Well, he made that mistake once he was there. The second time, I don't remember exactly what he did the second time. I think he grabbed them, but he let them out of his sight because they were supposed to be protected, so he couldn't take them. Then the third time, he wasn't hanging with the right people. He was hanging out with like all these money makers. There's a story about Josiah, a man who was looking for silver, and he hired Joseph to help him find the silver, but then that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
And then the fourth time when he finally was able to get it, he had this 4-year development that he needed to be prepared. So he's 17 when he started this preparation. By the end, he's 21 when this preparation comes, right? And then he continued to do the Lord's work.
But did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned this when I was in institute, and I didn't have time to cross-reference it. But on the third time, the Moroni's telling him, "Listen, you're hanging around the wrong crowd. Your heart's not in the right place. You're not in the right mindset." And Joseph didn't push back like how Maria pushes back if I tell her she's not in the right mindset. Like, I can't believe you just said what you said.
Check my energy.
Yeah, check your energy, right? So Moroni's like, just talking to Joseph and be like, whatever. So he tells him, you need a partner, like you need to whatever. So he tells him where to go and then he meets Emma. He marries.
No, that's not how it. Well, that's not how it happened. You know how it happened? He does tell him. Okay, so he asked the first time when Joseph Smith asked him, "Well, who do I need to bring?" was the first time, and he said Alban, and he was supposed to bring Alban the second time, but obviously he died. And then on the third time, when he's like, "You need to bring someone," and he's like, "Well, who should I bring?" And he's like, "You will know who it's going to be."
Yeah, but he tells him where to go, and that's where he meets Emma.
No, he doesn't tell him where to go.
No?
He actually what ends up happening is that Joseph, prior to all these experiences, finds a stone, and he's able to look through this stone and see things that other people are not able to see. I know it sounds really crazy, and I was reading the book The Saints, and during that time there was a lot of people that believed in these particular like objects that if you found them, they would give you the ability to see things that were not
Seer
seen
stones.
to the naked
Seer
eye.
stones. Yeah.
Yeah, seer stones, right?
Yeah.
So he found a seer stone before anything, and when he would look through it, he would see things that other people couldn't, right? That's why he ended up working with Josiah, because they knew of his gift and they wanted him to come so he could find all this treasure, right? Anyway, so then apparently what happens is that he goes home, and during this period, he's not exactly sure who Moroni meant and who's going to help him. And then it's through prayer and the seer stone that he ends up realizing that it's Emma. Because Emma, he loved Emma, but also she was the type of woman that was going to help him to become a better person, just like Alvin was. He was there to help him. Well, not that he just was there to help him be a better person, but he was the type of brother that would help those around him become a better person. I know, I just read it. I was like, what?
Okay. Yeah, and so that's why
So you're welcome for correcting you.
Yeah, hang on one second. Hang on. I did say I learned this in institute, and then I didn't have the opportunity to cross
you're
reference
super
it.
old, so that must have been like, what, 40 years
Oh,
ago?
dang. All right, cool. In front of people, huh? Okay. Thanks, man. Yeah. So
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, all I knew, so the logistics of what I was trying to say is that him finding a good partner allowed him to properly prepare that year. So then on this fourth visit, he was ready because he had a good support system, right? And again, it's finding the right. So what I was telling you before, finding the right support system, hanging around the correct people to help you develop into something greater, not lesser or stagnant or plateauing, right? So for him, it was Emma. It was a partner, and he found her, and she made him better. And then he was able to retrieve these plates, right?
Yeah.
So I do have a question for you here.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the responsibilities of preaching the gospel, right? And then the manual lists 4 things. Do you have an opportunity to see those 4 things?
Yep.
Okay.
Live, share, love, and I can't remember the 4th one, but yes.
Yeah. So live the gospel is 1.
Mm-hmm.
Caring for those in need. Invite others to receive the gospel truths, and unite the family for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So here, and this is the one thing that I always push back against, right? People think like the gospel living is this monolith, like this hive, that this is the only way of doing certain things. And if you're not doing it, then then you're pushing back, or you're being a rebel to the gospel, or just something like that, right? But living the gospel for some people, just proclaiming the gospel is just living a good life, right? And then through their example, the gospel is going to get taught. People are going to ask questions on all these different things. Now, we should be working really, really hard and developing to the next stage, right? And then we will be missing certain blessings from not doing so. We're still going to get blessed. We still have the eternal promises, but here on earth, we will miss out on certain blessings or certain gifts or certain experiences from the Father by not developing, right? But you're still a good person. Like you're not a bad person. But if you do one of these 4 things, the Father's pleased, right? The Father's in. Put gospel off to the side. Like living the gospel, what does it mean? Living a good life, being good to people, not being mean, not being a jerk, caring for others in need. Again, gospel or not gospel, an important principle. Invite others to live the gospel. Invite others to live a good life, but just by your presence, your surrounding, your example, right? And just treating others, it does catch on. And then uniting the family. In this case, is uniting the family for eternities, but just even uniting the families. Whatever content that you're putting out there in life, whether it be on social media or posts, are you uniting people or are you dividing them? Right? Are you...
I always say,
Go ahead.
I always think that the biggest telltale sign for us when we pass on is going to be like our social media. Like angels are just gonna be like, let's see on this day you did this. Oh, look at this comment that you made. Yeah. Oh. So I'm always very mindful of that. I'm like, if I died and the only thing that was left of me on my social media, what kind of things do I want to leave behind in the world?
Yeah, no, 100%. Do you know let me look this up here because I don't want to be course corrected by some people. It was the cedar stones that got her Emma.
Well, if you're gonna say something, you might as well make it right.
But the meaning of the word gospel, you know what it means?
What does it mean?
Hang on, I just want to... It comes... Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. It means good news. Mm-hmm. So the word gospel itself, I don't know if it's Greek or Latin, or I don't know what it is, but the word gospel comes from the word story or news. In other words, in Christianity terms, it means good news. So reverse all of this now. So we're talking about the 4 principles of being a member. So if we go back to living the gospel, are you living the good news? Are you being a good person? Are you caring for those in need? Are you inviting others with the good news, right? And are you uniting families with your good news? If you are doing any of these things in the opposite, if what you're posting is so negative, you're always trash talking other political parties, if you're just trash talking other people because they looked you wrong in the wrong way, or they didn't say hi in the way that you wanted to, are you really uniting
even
the
church
people?
Leaders, if you're trashing church leaders,
oh yeah,
that's another big one too.
Oh no, I know, and that's why I was very careful in not telling people what was happening, right? And so you have to be very, just live a good life. And you know what I'm starting to do now? You know, now this whole thing with Trump and the inauguration and all these different things, I haven't unfriended anybody, but I'm starting, there's a lot of posts from people, just so much hate, just so much whatever. Now, I'm not here to say for or against. Please don't whatever. But now what I'm starting to filter out what I see when I log onto Facebook. Mm-hmm. So if they keep putting all this negativity, all this stuff out there, I'm just gonna unfollow their post. I'm still their friend, so I haven't unfollowed them. I'm just unfollowing their posts so then I don't get it on my feed. And I'm telling you right now, I'm starting to purge. I'm starting to be very careful of who I bring in just socially, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I tend not to comment with anything that has to do with political, even though obviously I have my political views.
Pilates effects?
All of us are entitled.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Oh, you have your Pilates? Even though I have my Pilates.
I have my Pilates views. No, I have my political views.
Yeah.
And I think we're all entitled. I think sometimes we forget
100%
that it's okay to have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody has their opinion based on their life experience and based on what they value. What I don't always like is when people start saying that because you're a member of the church, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that or you shouldn't follow this person. You shouldn't. No, that's not our prerogative. We are to focus on us and we are to care for others and love and empathy and all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not
And it's
I'm not a
both
fan of that,
ways.
but
And it's both ways. It's
no,
like,
it
oh,
is.
if you follow this person, then you must be a bigot. Or if you follow this person, you must be a hippie, right? From the right to the left or the left to the right. And it's just like,
Yeah.
no, I don't follow them because I'm this. I agree with their whatever. But anyways, so now I would just
Well,
highly
you should.
recommend. What's that?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I'm just one advice to people for 2025 beginning this year is just purge yourself of any negativity. Make sure that you're only allowing light to come into your world. Live the gospel, care for those in need, post things that are just good for the mankind, and just invite others to do good as well. Right? And just go through a cleanse, right? And I promise people, I like who's ever listening or watching to this, if you do so, your 2025 is going to be absolutely fire. It's going to be amazing, and you're going to see so many good things happening in your life.
Yeah. I think you know what? I think you're right too because I'm like as you live the gospel and you start learning more about Christ, it's going to give you more charity in your heart. And when you
Yeah.
have more charity in your heart, then whatever other people's views, they may affect you very shortly, but then you will be able to overcome them and see them more as a human being as opposed to an opponent or whatever it is that that sometimes those feelings that bubble up.
Yeah. The last
Yeah.
point that I have here from my end, and I think it's probably one of the biggest ones, in all honesty, and it's because I've been dealing it a lot. So in my position in the church, I hate flexing and whatever, but I'm in a position to be able to counsel people to the masses. And I get this always. Maria, I'm telling you right now, and I just want to get your opinion here. Sometimes we feel that we cannot be used, or we cannot be used by the Lord to do His work because we've made mistakes. So we've done something, we've committed a sin, we've done something bad, and we feel that we are outside of the Lord's love, and that He doesn't love us anymore, and that we can't be used, and then our worth starts to go down. What would you say to people that feel like that?
I would empower them to get to know the Lord. I would empower them to go to the scriptures and
Get to know their
learn of
shepherd?
Him.
Yeah, get to know their
Get,
shepherd. Oh, I didn't bring it. Okay.
get,
Yeah.
get to know your shepherd. Yeah. Because I think it's a misunderstanding and I think it's something that Satan uses
Mm.
to his benefit, obviously, where he's like, oh, like you're outside of His grace, you're outside of His atonement, you're outside of all of this. But I think getting to know Him, getting to know His nature, getting to know His deep love for us will 100% help in the feelings that we have of inadequacy, of feeling like we're not worth it, of like berating ourselves when we
Yeah.
make mistakes and when we commit sins. I think that's the one thing that I've been able to learn the most this past year is how much the Lord loves us, how willing He is there. He has a promise in the scriptures. I think in all scriptures, all sets of scriptures, that as people come unto Him, that He promises to forgive us. How incredible is that? That you have, like, we people are completely imperfect, and if we ask for forgiveness, sometimes people have a difficult time, and like you don't know if you're always going to be forgiven with people. But with the Lord, He's like, no matter what has happened, come to me. Let me help you. Let me help you to go through this repentance process. Let me help you change your ways so you can benefit from it. And I will be there and I will forgive you. I think that's what gives me the most hope. Just having that promise. I'm like, there's nothing that I can do that will deter me away, that will make Him so far away that I cannot be forgiven. How incredible is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you usually say when that question comes up?
Well, when I'm working one-on-one with people, is I just try and dive deep into why they're feeling like that, and all these different things. But if I was just a general thing, and I'm actually starting to get a little bit emotional when it comes to this question, because again, I've been through it. Is just ask Him. right? We tend to we tend to make mistakes in the world, and that's a part of life. This is one of the reasons why we have the atonement of Jesus Christ. This is why he came down to earth, is because he knew that we were going to make mistakes. And so then we make these mistakes, and then we take it upon ourselves to know the will of God. We take it upon ourselves to know, oh, he must not love me. He must not like me. I'm outside of the reach of the atonement. And then that's it for me, right? My biggest recommendation for anybody in this position, if they want to know where they stand with God, is just to ask him. Just go on your knees and just pray and just say, hey, how am I doing? How am I standing? And I cannot begin to tell you, if my kids come to me, and they have, are we good? Dad, I see you angry, or something's happening or whatever. I can't, as a father, not just embrace them and love them and pull them in and just hold them tighter and squeeze them tighter just to let them know how much I love them. And if I'm a faulty man, I can't believe how quicker the Father will come if we just go to him in sincere prayer and be like, hey, where do I stand with you? So my recommendation is just to ask. Just ask him. If you want to know where you are standing with somebody, just ask.
Yeah. It does remind me of when Joseph Smith asked what his standing before the Lord was. There was two things that he did beforehand, that he came to him with humility.
Mm-hmm.
So humility meaning that you realize your dependence in God, and then with faith. He had the faith that he will answer him. So I think it's important that as you ask this question, that you choose to have faith. Now remember, faith is an action principle. It's not sometimes you kind of faith it till you make it. You can't, like, you got to make the action before the faith, or before the feeling will come.
Mm-hmm.
But just try that out. I totally agree with you that if you ask with sincere heart, in humility, with faith, that you will get that answer. That you will get that answer.
Should have put it on silent. I need to learn my lesson.
I'm surprised you didn't answer it. Hello? Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, nothing. Just, I'm doing nothing right now. Yeah.
Hold on one second. Let me just finish this podcast. But yeah, I love the gospel. Honestly, I feel like the gospel gives us all the tools that we need in order to be able to get through life. I was thinking, I don't know if I was talking to you or I was talking to Mike, and we were talking about how so often we say, life doesn't come with a manual, life doesn't come with instruction. Yeah. And now I'm like, it does. I'm like, life comes with the scriptures.
Yeah.
And life comes with this ability to pray, like you say, you pray to heaven, so you can ask your question, but then you read the scripture so you can receive your answer.
Yeah.
So I think about that, and I'm like, whenever I have questions, and whenever I'm feeling less than, or whenever I'm struggling, that's what I do. I go into the scriptures, and I go into those principles and those experiences and those lived moments of real people who have felt like I did, or like I do, and then I see what happens in their life, and then I think, why not me? If they're able to go through this and they're able to receive these answers, why not me?
And for those who are not maybe of our faith, or maybe even not Christians at all, or maybe that just they don't believe in anything higher or bigger or just anything like that, if you're ever feeling alone, if you're ever feeling like you actually want to know if there's something out there or someone up there, my recommendations are always the same, right? It's just ask. What good father will deny his children an answer, right? And so Father's the perfect father. He's the perfect engineer. And he is the perfect person. He's omnipotent and omnipotent. Omnipotent. Oh my gosh, right? And so he's great. He's awesome. And my promise to you is that if you do go with him with a sincere heart, a humbled heart, and a contrite spirit, broken heart, and a contrite spirit, he will answer you. He will let you know the truthfulness of all things. He's a good God. And just pray. Just ask him.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I concur.
Anything else that you took away from this week's lesson?
No, I think those were my two biggest points. The fact of the importance of community and sharing your struggles so you don't have to go through it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or even if you have a big task ahead of you of sharing that, so you don't have to go through it alone. And then the other one was how, Joseph Smith teaches us how he grew into his calling.
Mm-hmm.
And us as people, we can grow into our callings and the things that we do, both in the world and our careers, as a parent and all these things, and as well into our callings in the gospel, that we can grow into them, that we don't have to be perfect from the beginning, but rather as we trust, as we humble ourselves, as we ask in faith, that we will develop into the people that God sees us, just like he was able to develop a 14-year-old boy into a prophet who translated the Book of Mormon, who restored the gospel, who, printed had the doctor, or did the Doctrine and Covenants and printed it out and did all these things. He was able to develop him, so why not us, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. If he can mold a 14-year-old boy to do what he did, you have to be moldable, right? I received a visit from Elder Irene when I was on my mission, and a missionary asked him what's the most important lesson that anybody can take. He goes, learn to be coachable.
Yeah.
Right? Learn to be coachable.
100%.
Again, you're asking Apostle a question, which is a deep question. Out of all the things that you can learn in life, what's the biggest thing? And his answer is learn to be coachable. And so, you need to learn how to be moldable, right? Because if you're rigid, if you're set in your ways and you're like, no, it doesn't make sense, and I got my doctorate, I got my master's, I'm a studied person, and I know more, then you're limiting yourself what you can become in his hands, right? Like a sculptor to its clay, you got to be able to let the hands work with you and just create perfection in his hands.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, how do I do it? How do I become coachable? It's through humility. It's through knowing that you don't know everything. And that's with everything. When you're receiving advice from others, when you're receiving counsel from God, when you're receiving chastening from God, because, he chastens those he loves. So you know that at some point there are going to be some uncomfortable feelings of things that you do need to do better.
Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. All right.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. What's that? Yeah. You were going to say something?
No, I think that was it. I was like, well, I didn't ask you if you had anything, any big takeaway that you had this week. But I think you talked about being coachable.
Yeah, the coachable, but it's this one. The one that really stuck out was if you want to know where you stand before the Lord, it's just even though you've made mistakes, just ask him. That was my biggest just aha moment this week for this week's study. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing, is that this also applies to people, right? One of the reasons why we never really started the podcast is because we wouldn't come to each other, right?
You mean this podcast?
No. The VS, the Monday podcast, right after the break, after the summer break. One of the reasons we took so long is because we both presumed that what the other ones was thinking. Presumed?
Yeah. Assumed.
Isn't it presumed?
No, it's assumed. I don't know what presume means right now.
Presume? Hang on.
Anyway, but you're absolutely right. So if you haven't yet, check out our VS podcast. It happens every Monday at 10 a.m. And that is more related to human behavior. We do personal development. We share our lives. And we help to hopefully inspire you to go from vision to success.
So I'm looking it up. Suppose that something is the case on a bias of probability. I presume that a man has been escorted from the building. So presume. I used it right. Don't question my English.
And anyway, let's move on.
No, hang on one second before we go.
People want to go enjoy the rest of their day.
Hang on, we got 30 seconds. So the point that I'm making is that one of the reasons why we didn't really start up the podcast after the break is because either assumed from Maria she didn't want to do it, and then Maria assumed that I didn't want to do it, but we never really spoke to each other.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
Was that?
We just assumed.
Yeah, we assumed.
No, you're right. We just assumed.
Yeah. And so if we would have had that conversation and be like, hey, do you want to do it? You're like, yeah, right? Then we would have continued. So it's the same principle that we're talking about today. Is that if you want to know where you stand with him, just ask. Don't assume or presume.
I don't think presume goes. But on that note, we're going to leave you and I wish you an amazing, amazing weekend. Make sure you go to church. Make sure you read your scriptures. Make sure you pray. And know that you are loved.
Absolutely. Later. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to all of our social media websites. And we will see you on Monday at 10 a.m. in our VS podcast.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye.